The F-101C is probably my favorite Century Series aircraft. I think all of the F-100 planes are, for the most part, pretty ugly, but I quite like the look of the F-101C, and it's a plane that I wish was added to the game much, much earlier than it was. I think this plane should have probably been a top-tier jet at some point many, many, many years ago, as should a lot of planes that they retrospectively have added to the game. But now we're all the way to Su-30s and F-15 Golden Eagles and so on, so clearly it is a bygone era. My overall analogy of this aircraft is probably a useful F-104, a more carryable F-104. The F-104 is obviously an annoying plane to deal with, but you still need a team to be able to really kind of effectively use that aircraft. This one, on the other hand, you kind of have the same abilities as the F-104. At the same time, though, it's similar to a MiG-19 when it comes to energy retention. I do kind of think of it as America's MiG-19. Obviously, though, it's not nearly as maneuverable as the MiG-19. And so, really, the way I kind of played this aircraft was a lot like I played the F-86K, that afterburner Sabre Dog plane that pretends it's an F-86, even though it's really not. If you play this aircraft like the F-86K, in my opinion, it's actually quite relatable to the F-86K. You're just obviously a lot more capable, so you can capitalize on presented opportunities, get yourself out of trouble, all of these things much easier in the F-101C. And the M39 cannons, phenomenal cannons, you get 4 of them, and you have a lot of ammunition. And while it's not a complete boat like, say, the F-104 is, it does have the ability to turn a little bit, but you really can't be super aggressive in this aircraft. It is a plane that you want to stay fast in, use that energy retention, use the power generation. Again, similar to a MiG-19, not quite as good as a MiG-19 in that aspect, but this ain't a plane you're going to be turning and burning and getting slow in. You can be a little more aggressive than just flying in, taking one shot and flying away. You do actually have the ability to try to stay on somebody's 6 for a minute and get guns on target. It's not that much of a boat. Just, again, try to be a little conservative. Don't get super aggressive. Don't overly commit to one guy, and I think you'll be just fine. Planes like this usually lend themselves to kind of zipping around the battlefield, in and out, switching between different targets. If you don't successfully land shots on one target, go to the next, find the next target of opportunity, rinse and repeat, and there you go. That's pretty much the playstyle of aircraft that are similar to this. And I think really it's pretty much mostly US planes that come to mind when I think of that stuff. Russian planes you can be a little more aggressive with. They are a little bit better to 1v1 situations and isolated fights. American planes, with their speed combined with their armament, make it pretty easy to zip around the battlefield, try to help your team in multiple different areas without overly committing to one area, because that's when you're going to die. And that's pretty much what you see me doing right now. I'm just finding targets that are focusing on my teammates or low on energy, easier shots. I will say that sometimes this plane is a little goofy to aim, as I one-tap somebody right there. But it's got a weird, I'm going to call it a center of gravity. It's like a weird feeling center of gravity when you're like rolling around and trying to get guns on target. It just, like, maybe the rudder or something at a certain point in your roll as you're trying to kind of like align your aircraft with the target, it gets stuck in some positions sometimes. And again, I don't know if that's like a weak rudder or what, but it makes it a little weird to aim, and you'll miss some shots that you really shouldn't be missing, combined with the fact that I'm just washed at this game. I can't shoot that well on really any gun, and these are pretty easy guns to use if you do play a lot of War Thunder. You'll get used to them pretty fast. It's just I don't really that much anymore, so you'll see me whiff some pretty easy shots that you guys probably won't be whiffing. Nice guns to use, but again, I don't know, I'm going to call it center of gravity. The plane's got a weird center of gravity that I am going to blame some misses on. Another thing that I forget about all the time at this battle rating specifically is radars. This aircraft does have a search radar, and it is actually useful in 9.3. Believe it or not, even without radar missiles, it is useful sometimes to find the last guy alive on the enemy team. You'll see me a lot of times not using it. I'll even ask my teammates for a blind hunt or an Avenger order or something like that, when really I should just turn my radar and look myself, because more than likely, as long as they're not hugging the ground, you actually can detect where that last guy is alive on your radar. and it's very, very nice to have, because at least in my matches that happens pretty frequently, where the last guy or two are just nowhere to be found, whether they went back to base or they're taking the long way around to try to get another bombing target down, something like that. So while I always forget to turn it on, I hope you don't forget to turn it on and actually make use of it, because it's pretty cool. So the strength of this plane at 9.3 is the energy. The power generation is great. It doesn't lose all of its speed in a turn, and while it is not like an actual dogfighter and you can't get overly aggressive with this, you don't have to immediately fly away after missing your first burst from somebody 6 o'clock. You can pop your air brake, you can work to stay behind your target and try to extend the amount of time you have to sit behind them, because it's not a complete brick. The top speed isn't crazy. It does go supersonic at altitude. Again, it's similar to a MiG-19 in this sense. On the deck, you're going to barely get supersonic, but at altitude, you can actually get to like Mach 1.1. You've got the search radar at 9.3, which is actually pretty useful, and you have 4 extremely good guns with a lot of ammo. You get no missiles, however, and the biggest drawback is that you get no countermeasures, and you can't even run any rockets as makeshift countermeasures, and that is by far my biggest gripe with this airplane. But it's not really this airplane thing, it's more like this entire battle rating, and why I just don't like playing this battle rating whatsoever, regardless of how good the aircraft is. You're going to see in the next couple of clips exactly what I'm talking about. I just don't think that high G missiles belong anywhere near this battle rating, because you have 80% of the aircraft here rely on guns, dogfighting, and getting into up close and personal engagements. You can't always just fly in straight lines and stay max speed. You can't always just keep your 6 o'clock away from the guy that has the high G missile. You're oftentimes damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you don't deal with the target that's right in front of you, this is your one and only chance to get rid of him at his current energy state. Otherwise, he's going to get his speed back, he's going to get position back, and you're not going to be able to do anything to him. On the other hand, sometimes you'll have somebody like a Mirage 3 coming in with magic ones somehow at this battle rating, to where you have no choice now but to give up the fight that you are currently in and try to get your 6 o'clock away from that Mirage 3, because that is guaranteed death. This sort of paradox at this battle rating I just don't think is very fun gameplay whatsoever. I don't think it's a skill issue thing really either. I don't know. I just think it's stupid. Unless you're playing with a squad or you have a really coordinated team, there's not much you can do in every scenario. You can't be prepared for any aircraft on the enemy team having such a weapon, especially when the spotting system is as poor in close range as it is in this game anymore. If you play with the mindset that at any moment I could be taking a 30G missile up my ass from 6 o'clock, you're not going to be very effective in your matches. You're not going to be getting the full potential out of the plane, and you're not going to be doing the most you possibly can for your team. But look at this. This is exactly what I'm talking about. I am currently fighting somebody else, or at least trying to get my guns on, but all of a sudden a Yit appears from roughly my 5 o'clock out of nowhere. I spot him at 3 kilometers. I say a fight, it's a Buccaneer, look at that. So I'm just trying to pick an easy kill with a Buccaneer. But since I didn't get to initially spot this Yit or come at him from head on or anything like that, now I am completely trapped. I cannot extend away from this guy. The second he gets my 6 o'clock, he has AIM-9Gs that are roughly probably 3 kilometer range at this battle rating with these kind of speeds, where I'll probably just die. So I cannot extend away from him, but if I get too slow, somebody else can kill me, and there's just no way out. There's genuinely no way out of situations like that. You need teammates and you need squad mates, because if you have somebody that has AIM-9Gs or the Shafir 2s at within 3 kilometers of you, there's really nothing you can do to get away from that. You have to turn your afterburner off, and you have to turn your nose into that target. And again, that's what I'm trying to do right here. A Mirage 3C has decided that it is just my turn to die. I'm dying right now, and there's nothing I can do about it. And so while I have to do everything I possibly can to keep him from launching a Magic 1 at me, I give my 6 o'clock to somebody else's missile. The good news is that this really only applies to up tiers. Once you're getting into like 10.0, 10.3 games, that's where you're seeing these missiles that are just absolute pain in the ass to deal with. but the matchmaker isn't all that terrible for this thing. In fact, at 9.3 in the F101C, I actually got more regular, like my own matchmaker, my own tier, or a down tier, more often than I did at 9.0 with the Yak 130. Speaking of Yak 130, dive on him from the clouds, saw his wing off, pick up a free kill right there. This is a beautiful matchmaker for the F101C. This plane is very strong when you're not dealing with all of those high G missiles. Again, very similar to the MiG-19 in that regard. You get a great flight model, you get great performance compared to these other aircraft, like for example the F-86K here, and it's just only an up tier thing. That's like the only thing that keeps this plane balanced and keeps its performance, like its player metrics, from going through the roof. And as far as battle efficiency goes, is when you do get those up tiers, man, it is hard to play effectively. Can be done, but that's the last I guess I'll complain about it. You see these M39s going to work. Even a washed unk like me can hit some shots with them and shoot people out of the air. If you're good at this game and you do have a pretty good aim, probably I'd say you could easily get about 8 kills with these cannons. I know this is the case on the F-86F2, but it is probably on other M39 carrying airplanes as well. You can select 2 guns at a time to make your trigger time even longer if you want to. There's a certain keybind for that. It's like select primary weapon, I think, something along those lines. And it'll let you cycle through. It'll say cannons and machine guns, but they're both cannons, obviously. And that way you can just shoot 2 guns at once, which essentially doubles your trigger time. And so when you're at battle rating like this, all you really need to do is keep up your speed and find the low energy targets, the easy to shoot targets. It doesn't matter what the plane is. If you have an opportunity to eliminate a potential gun out of the game, do it. Because it's War Thunder ARB is essentially a numbers game through and through, from the lower tiers to the top tiers, especially top tiers. But even the lower tiers, if you have a really good enemy team, but there's only 3 of them, and your team is a bunch of bots, but you know what you're doing, and there's 8 of you left, you can still probably win, and you're still probably going to win. So whatever you can do to get the ball rolling and get out as many enemy players as possible, you should do. You see me trying to stay behind this J22 here, using that little bit of maneuverability that the F101C has. Unfortunately, I was a little bit tunnel vision, did not see this F86 coming in. Lucky for me, I think he was coming in too fast. If he'd have slowed himself down, he'd have given himself a little more time on target. Really, I should have been dead there. I get pretty lucky about that, but you can see the raw performance of this air crane. It's an air crane, everybody. Raw performance of this airplane where you can just zoom away, and I obviously was basically stalling out right there at the top of my loop and still managed to just dip the nose down and accelerate away from both of the dangers there. And shout out AI. Why did the AI show up on your minimap there? The top right screen, there's a little red dot. He flew right past me, kind of made me nervous when I was playing this live. I don't know why the AI show up on your minimap like that. I think it's really stupid. It was nice of the F3H on my team to come dunk on that J22M. Realistically, I didn't need any help, but why not? You have teammates, that's what they're there for. So he gets out of the match a little bit quicker. And again, I'm going to try, you can see what I was talking about earlier. You don't have to just immediately peel off when you're sitting behind somebody like you would in like an F1 or an F104 right here. I do have the ability to move a little bit. Obviously, the maneuverability here is not great, and I'm not doing great at showcasing it either. And my target also not extremely competent in the F86 F30. But that's the realistic portion, that's the realistic side of ARB. Your targets aren't going to be the best players in the game. And so while, yeah, he could have obviously just turned away from me and been out of my guns, that's not going to be the case for you every game when you're playing in realistic battles, as I almost get team killed. So while obviously the F86 F30 is going to dunk on you in a low speed turn fight like that, the ability to be able to at least attempt it to a degree of success in the F101C is quite welcome compared to, like, again, the F104. And I'm using that comparison because I'm comparing something with relatively similar engine power. The F104 is very fast, accelerates very quickly, and so does the F101C. I'd take the F101 all day long over the F104 though, specifically because of that little bit of maneuverability you actually have, actually lets you carry the game a little bit compared to the F104. And really, the M61 Vulcan's nice, but there is no complaining about M39s either. Great guns as long as you have enough ammo, and this one gives you plenty. The Yak 130 that I just crit in the head on does end up crashing, giving me kill number 4. All that's left is the Yak 28 who is running away. Thankfully, the plane has enough power to kind of catch him as long as you take a good intercept angle. And while I do not get severe damage for that, somehow my F-106 teammate does the rest of the job at finishing him off. But being that I shot him first, obviously I want my kill. I make like 7 passes trying to kill his pilot because his damage model breaks, and we win the game. If you have the ability, I do recommend picking up this plane. I do think it's a good addition, and it is fun as long as you're not getting up tiered to 30G missile land. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you later.